So you're not Kevin Costner?
No, he's not Kevin Costner, but we are back. We are we.
We
And
are we.
we are we, and this is the season finale for Saul Goodman Call Better Call Saul. No, I'm reading because on Skype you wrote that to me, and it was all fucking out of order, so I was like, I'd
That's all
say
right.
it.
Saul Call Better Goodman.
Goodman Better Saul Call, yeah. Season finale, episode 10. This is Marco. This is the name of this episode.
Marco, it's
So
sad
we've
episode.
officially all the O's. I don't think season 2 is gonna do the O thing. Hopefully not. Maybe it'll be A, or maybe it'll be some other syllable that they add at the end of the titles.
Is the season 2 premiere gonna be Polo?
Polo.
Marco, Polo.
Oh my god. Yeah. Watch. There's like a new character called Polo or something. That'd be fucking
No, you
weird.
meet Gus because he's got like lost. Doesn't this thing have like polo in it?
Los Polos Hermanos.
Oh
Yeah,
no,
there you
no, dude.
Polos! It could be Marco Polos.
It could. Jesus Christ.
I think we just predicted season 2 already, and we're only like 30 seconds
Holy
into the
fuck,
review.
yeah, I know, pretty good prediction. And yes, I will say that at the end of this episode, there were no previews for next season. So there's nothing that we saw that you didn't.
Oh man, we don't have an advantage.
Yeah, I know, right?
No competitive edge.
No competitive edge.
Yeah, I think I got the best advantage though from the first episode where you missed like a third
Oh
of
my
the
God,
episode.
that
I
was
think that's
the
like the
most
highlight. I
bit.
was gonna say at the end of this video we should do highlights, but that seriously is the highlight. The fact that
So you're telling me you missed 10 minutes of the episode?
our most popular episode, they got about 700 views, and we're a fucking like. I think that's why our series tanked in views after people were just like, wow, these guys don't even watch the full episode.
Yeah, because I was like, oh yeah, remember the Tuco stuff, and you were like, what? The Tuco stuff.
Fucking, it was because of the Walking Dead mix-up, because it was all fucked up. But anyway, yeah, that's whatever. That happened.
Anyway,
first
yeah,
episode.
season finale of this.
Yeah. So this
is the-
season finale, I'm gonna say this. This episode, I don't know if you guys got this vibe, but it didn't really.
So I didn't like it. Can I start actually? Because this will be interesting. I did not like this episode.
Yeah, it didn't
And I
feel
know
like
you
a.
didn't like it, I liked it.
Well, I guess we can say that real
Yeah.
quick, but it just for me. Well, I'll say this: it's not that I didn't like it. I'm very average on it, but the thing is, it didn't really feel like a season finale. It felt like just another episode. To be quite honest, having seen this episode, I almost kind of would have rathered them have the season finale be last week's episode, where you have the big revelation of what happened with Chuck and Jimmy. I almost kind of would have rathered that. I mean, obviously that would have been a huge cliffhanger to know what would have happened in the next season, but at the same time, I just, because a lot of what they did in this episode was stuff that we already kind of knew what was going to happen. Like, we've seen in previous episodes, we saw Jimmy and his friend Marco, we know his name, were doing these kind of Slippin' Jimmy scam tactics. So we kind of knew from the previews, and even just basic assumption, we knew that he was pissed off at Chuck, he left Albuquerque, he was kind of going to relive a bit of his past, scamming people, and that was what they did. However, I couldn't justify the airtime that I don't know how long they spent. You know, the whole thing with the JFK coin, they spent a huge part of the episode just doing that whole scam with the guy and the money. But the thing for me is, we already know they're successful at scamming people. They already had a scene in a previous episode. I forget what episode it was. Remember, it was the episode where...
It was either 2 or 3, I think.
Yeah, it was where Marco was on the ground and Jimmy's with that other guy. And this is before you know Jimmy and Marco are friends. And Marco's on the ground, and that's when they... Remember the watch thing? They scam him and they get the money. And then that's... Like, they already played out a similar kind of thing. Like, because you already knew that they were very sly and deceptive, those kind of practices. The show already proved that. So for all of that airtime to be given to that particular scene in that bar, and then the whole scene after where they're doing multiple scams and there's like the music and they're flashing in and out, that whole kind of weird scene, like, I was like, all right, like, I understand it. Like, there was just nothing... Like, I understand what it was trying to accomplish, that Jimmy was kind of going back to his old ways because his brother thinks that that's all he is, obviously, that we found out last episode. I don't know.
Personally, I think it was fitting in the fact that it was all set up for the very end conclusion. It all set it up for him walking up, about to take the position at that other law firm that came in, and he rolls Marco's ring around in his finger, and then he just turns around, blasts some Purple Rain or whatever the fuck that song was, and then Purple Haze, and then fucking just peels out of there. He's like, I think it was the conclusion that, we all were kind of expecting, that, next season he's gonna be Saul Goodman. He stopped, he talked to Mike, he's like, we had, like 1 point whatever $million laying on my desk, why didn't we split it 50-50? And of course Mike was, like, I was hired to do a job, I did my job. But, you could see that Saul has finally had enough. He's done with it. He's no longer, and he said this. He's like, I know why I gave it back. I was like pretending to be something, but now, given the second chance, I would never do that again. He's finally gone over the edge. Mm-hmm. So I liked it. I thought the whole week he spent with Marco and all the crazy scams that they did, all that, I think that was justified. I like the creative filmography that they did with it, and of course it ended sadly because right before he said, okay, I've been here for a week, I need to go back. I've got, the clients were calling him, and so they had one last fake Rolex, and of course Marco fucking kicks the bucket. But right before he does, he's like, this has been the best week of my life, and that was it was heartwarming, but I thought it had a purpose to it.
Yeah. So how about you, Pete? What do you think about the episode since we went in a row?
Yeah, I will say that the plot stuff I've got nothing against. Like, I think the way that Saul ended this journey of his that started from the beginning of this season, it's almost like a discovery. Like, he was trying to find out what he really wanted. Did he want to be this law-abiding, good lawyer that he did the elder law in? Or was he going to be this criminal lawyer, the Slippin' Jimmy character, but in the lawyer sense, like what he did with the Kettleman case? It was kind of that whole, do I know, like, who am I going to be in terms of that? I can understand how this episode went. I just think the execution of this episode was kind of poor. Which is kind of sad for me to say, because if you heard me in the last episode, I was building this episode out. I was like, oh my gosh, like, because I think as Chris said, like, all the emotional build-up happened in the last episode, and I thought this episode was going to continue that, and maybe, bring in, like, I thought whenever he turned around and went straight back and became Saul Goodman, but it's strongly implied that that's what he did. I thought that was going to happen at some point during this episode, like in the middle. I didn't think it was going to happen at the very, very end. Like, I think, Chris, I couldn't agree more with what you were saying about the like, you already know that Saul and Marco are very good at this criminal business. You didn't have to get another 10 minutes of the episode cut into just another, like, criminal montage stuff, because you already know that. I mean, sure, it was nice to look at and stuff, and the music was kind of nice, but, like, I think that it cut off quite a lot of time that you could have spent on, like, something else. Like, again, Mike was nowhere to be seen in this episode except for the final, like, 2 minutes, and he was on quite a good roll. Like, if you remember the last episode, he did that whole job, and you thought he was going to escalate into something else. Of course, they hinted a line in there, though, with Mike, whenever he was like, oh, have you worked with him before? Alright, I'll go meet him. You're like, oh, who could he be talking about? You don't know that yet, but I just think all the stuff they're building up with Mike throughout the past couple of episodes just kind of, like, deflated for the season finale. I thought that might have built up towards something.
Well, like, I think, yeah, for all that they were doing with Mike, like, I was thinking maybe he would have, like, maybe there was maybe because they've crossed over Mike and Saul's stories very well, and there was a lot of attention being given to Mike in the past episodes, so I was thinking that Saul's new attitude would somehow, this is how I probably would have wanted the season finale to play. Maybe there was a brief scene where he goes back to Marco, but I would have also liked, included in this episode, is him and Mike, some dynamic between them now that Saul kind of has this new mentality from what happened in last week's episode. And I would have liked to have seen that, like, some type of development along those routes. Or maybe not. I was actually hoping that guy, the Voss guy, whatever his name is, I was hoping that he was going to come. We haven't seen him in a while. I mean, we saw him.
Yeah, he vanished after, like, episode 4.
Well, he was in when Mike was doing the deal. He was there.
But, like, yeah, they didn't develop on that. I mean, I'm sure they're probably going to go back to it in season 2, but that's a year away. Like, this was an episode that they could have cut some of this stuff in. I mean, obviously, yeah, shoulda, woulda, coulda, but, like, it's some of the stuff where I'm just thinking a lot of time in this episode is spent on stuff that you either already knew or stuff that could have been trimmed, in my opinion. And of course, this is just my opinion, but like I just think that, for example, like that bingo scene. I mean, I appreciated some of the references, like the Belize reference and all that stuff. TheAire's mentioning all
that
those
was pretty good. I mean, I kind of like that scene because
it showed the breakdown of Saul. You know how he started off alright. You know, he's doing his bingo thing, and then progressively, you know, with how many bees came up, it just reminded him of his brother over and over again, and he just progressively went down in a downward spiral until he left Albuquerque.
He also for the first time told us the story. Well, he told these old people the story
through the Chicago sunroof
of how he went of how this happened. And that I love that statement. He's like, because of that I'm here, kind of thing.
He was married.
Yeah, wait, he was he?
Yeah, and that guy took his wife.
Wait.
Yeah, that was in the big story, and that's the person that he did the Chicago sunroof to.
Yeah, that guy stole his wife away from him. His wife cheated on him with that guy while they were married.
Oh yeah.
And that's why he took a shit in his fucking car.
Oh,
and that's why he ended up in jail because it was sexual harassment.
It's like all this development that's kind of tied up quite nicely.
Because the kids were in the back seats, and of course he said the windows were tinted, which was not legal for Illinois, but.
Yeah. Oh, okay, yeah, I'm remembering that. Now, I just for a second, I was thinking more about his crime than that particular scene.
I think the episode started strong, absolutely. Like even whenever he was in Hamlin's place, and him and Hamlin got. I mean, it was like an apology actually. Like they sat there and they kind of Hamlin could finally talk to Jimmy like he wanted to.
A pig fucker?
No, the other thing. He's like, I always called you this, whatever.
Oh yeah, it was. Yeah, I can't remember what it was. It was some. I can't even remember.
Well, it's interesting because for the first time, Hamlin's kind of speaking his own mind.
Right.
It's not based on Chuck now, you know?
Now we've kind of seen that this whole time Chuck has kind of had a grasp on, you know, he's kind of been feeding words through Hamlin's mouth to make it seem like it's Hamlin being the dick. Which ultimately kind of sucks for Hamlin because, sure, he's probably still a prick because he's a well-to-do lawyer and, you know, he's got a lot of success. He's probably still a prick, but not to the level of how he was treating Saul. That was mostly Chuck feeding shit through his mouth.
Yeah. Yeah, and do you remember the episode where freaking Jimmy goes to the lengths of trying to copy Hamlin and all this stuff?
Yeah.
All this stuff set up to make Hamlin be, you know, that's why I liked that what happened in last week's episode, which was kind of even more the reason why I was expecting a little bit more from, you know, the season finale and stuff. And, you know, Marco dying, like, I didn't see it coming.
I didn't feel much from it. I'll be
honest.
honest.
I kind of, like, when they first sat down at the bar, he's like
coughing.
He coughs and he kind of clutches his chest, and I'm thinking about it, I'm like, oh my god, this guy's gonna have a fucking heart attack or something, and lo and behold, he ended up having a heart attack by the end of the episode. I mean, because he's fat and drinking a lot and not taking care of himself, and, you know, after the week of, you know, high intensity scams and shit, it kind of just put him over the top and killed him, and he just croaked at the end. But like he said, it was the best week of his life, so he kind of went out on a bang, at least.
Yeah, at least he went on a good note, so it wasn't all.
I mean, because that's why he was telling Saul to stay for the last thing. He's like, you know, you may have a good thing back in Albuquerque, you know, you might enjoy the lawyer thing, but I have nothing here, you know. This, you know, doing the piping or whatever isn't cutting it for me. So that last thing that they did, you know, at least, you know, he was happy because he smiled. Like right before he died, he was smiling. He's like, "This is the best, you know, week of my life."
Yeah. So I mean, and then from that, obviously, we talked about the lawyer position that Kim. I don't know if Kim did that out of sympathy for everything that happened. I'm not sure if she had a hand to play in getting that to happen. I know probably.
I think it was probably Hamlin. I'll be honest. Like I think Kim may have had a hand, but I think it was Hamlin that probably forwarded it. Because if you remember, like in their final confrontation, they were quite sympathetic towards each other. I think it was probably Hamlin who, when he was the head of the operation as it was, because Chuck was still homebound and stuff. So I think it was probably his idea to move on to another firm, and then with that firm say, "Oh, by the way, I know this guy, Slippin' Jimmy. I know this guy who might make a pretty good lawyer at your firm."
Right. Well, it also had to do with the fact that, you know, when Saul was checking his phone, he had 14 voicemails from all the elderly people, you know, wondering where he is and if they could have. So I mean, yeah, I do think that it was kind of Kim and Hamlin's. You know, they probably did bring it up, but it also has to do with the fact that they kind of need him to work on it because these people already know him and they want to deal with him. So this, if they're looking at a $20 million payout, they need the person to be, to be able to do it.
Plus the
So
case.
they need Saul.
Plus they mentioned that the case is so big that they need this team up with this other firm in order to take it. Remember Kim said that like it's too big for Hamlin's team, so they need to partner up with this other team.
Right, and that's why the other law firm, once they heard all these people talking about Saul, they're like, "Who's this Saul guy? Should we hire him?"
Yep. So
thinking, that's actually pretty unique. Like, that's a very Breaking Bad-esque situation that they put Jimmy in. It's a case where it's similar to probably a big Breaking Bad supporter here, but it's similar to Walter White built up, spent the entire series, season 5 I think, making so much money with his meth business just for 80 million of it to be buried underground in unknown locations and being never to be seen again. It's kind of similar in this season where Jimmy worked very hard to, whether it was with his elder law business or whether it was with, whether it was with cooperating with Hamlin and stuff, that he was able to get this job interview that previously in the season he would have died to get just for him to reject it. So it's one of those things where all this stuff that happened in the series built up to this big massive thing just for the protagonist to be like, nah, I don't want it.
It's also interesting. I almost see Walter White and Saul almost as kind of like parallel characters in some ways, because if you think about it, Walter White, the reason why he did some of what he did was because he got screwed from the Gray Matters company remember, it was worth a huge amount of money, and he cashed out when it wasn't worth that much, and now it's worth a lot, and he feel like he got gypped out of something he spent his life building up. And so I think his almost quote-unquote revenge or redeeming himself was his drug business. And it's kind of same with Saul. Like, Saul kind of got robbed out of, obviously his marriage, went to jail. It's almost like he was
yeah, because it's even more similar because the guy, I forget the guy's name because it's been so long, but Walter's partner in Gray Matter was willing to pay for his medical expenses, and he ended up just ripping up that check because he didn't want to take the money. So this is kind of the same with Saul. He's being offered this chance, to work on this deal, and he's kind of just ripping it up and being like, no, I'm gonna do my own thing. That would, it's belittling to me because of what they've done to me. So he's gonna go off and do his own thing.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I will say, despite the criticism I've given this episode, I am very excited for season 2. In terms of the fact that they've, I knew that at the very end of it they were going to establish that Jimmy was going to become Saul Goodman, Saul Goodman, the criminal lawyer. So I'm just excited to see, because now that as long as, if he jumps straight into it, and that'll be even better. It'll be interesting to see now that he's actually going to take up this criminal law, which is looking like what he's going to do. How is his relationship with Mike going to develop? Is he going to bump into some of the old characters that we know? We're going to see some new characters. Will Nacho show up again? It'll be interesting to see all these characters show up, potentially.
Exactly. So for this episode, I guess I'll start off. I think I'm going to give this one, I don't know, 7.5 if I had to rate it, just because of the criticisms I talked about. But it had some elements of building up who this character is and where they're going. I just think it could have been done a lot better, obviously from what we had last week, and I referenced that. So, based on what I've kind of said, that's where my score is going to stand at. How about you, Pete? What's yours?
I'm going lower. I'm going 6.5 because...
You're going lower?
I know, yeah. It's by far the lowest score I've given, but it's just because this episode, I just felt bored through it. That was the whole, through all those scenes that you didn't really need to include, I was just kind of staring at it, I knew what they're trying to tell me because they've already explained it to me, but now I'm watching scenes that are further explaining it to me. It's entertaining-ish, but it's not really that good. The final few minutes were pretty good, and seeing Saul finally take a stand and be and do what's right for him makes me excited for the second season. But that was it. The final 2 minutes or so made me excited. Whereas the season finale should be building up to get you really excited for this second season. I'm just kind of I'm looking forward to it. It's gonna be pretty good. So yeah, that's why I give it a. So.
And Jack,
I'd give it a much higher 8.5. I've obviously have a different opinion than the both of you. I felt that this episode did exactly what it needed to do. I watch a lot of TV shows that have what is it, Walking Dead, that have really high paced, a lot of death, season finales. And I'm glad that this, at least for season 1, that they kind of stood away from that. Because as of this season, it's not that kind of show. I like the gradual pace. I don't feel like they needed to rush it. They did good character development. They tied up a lot of the loose ends. We have no loose ends that need to be explained. We're going into season 2 excited for it. I'm happy with it. I felt that they did the right thing with this episode. So that's why I liked it. I'll give it an 8.5.
Okay. Yeah, I definitely agree with some of those points.
Because I think going on as the seasons progress, this is also evident from the Breaking Bad series. As the seasons went on, it got progressively more intense. There was more characters. There's more tight situations. There's a lot of
tight.
There's a lot of bloodshed. So I think going forward we can expect more fast paced scenarios. But for now, I liked what they did with this.
Well, how did the Breaking Bad season was only 6 episodes, and that season finale ended with Tuco beating the shit out of that guy that you see in Better Call Saul. Remember, they kill him, and there's the scene where Jesse and Walter White are just standing there with the money, just kind of like almost accepting kind of. Yeah, like holy shit, and accepting what they're in now, kind of the shit that they've stepped into now. That's how that. Well, that was also because that was a complete. AMC they give new TV shows that are new. They only give them like 6 episodes to prove themselves, so they only had that time frame to kind of say, all right, let's see if we can get an audience kind of thing. But even that finale, it was decent kind of thing, and it kind of had that.
That wasn't explosive, but I mean, it really got you like, oh my gosh, what is going to happen to these people? Like, they're in this crazy scenario. They're working for this maniac. What on earth's gonna happen to them?
Yeah.
I mean, like, I didn't need this season finale to be explosive and Chuck getting his head cut off, but then all this crazy stuff happening. But I mean, at the same time, it just kind of underwhelming. I suppose that's the word I was looking for a season finale where it's supposed to grip you. Well, no, I mean, depending on what tone they're setting, but like, it's the general tone for it. Is
like I said,
it just
it
was like Chris said. It didn't feel like a season finale. It just felt like another episode.
Yeah.
Except for the final 5 minutes.
Yeah. Agree to disagree.
Yes, agree to disagree. Yes.
Personal opinions. I've seen mixed reviews online. A lot of people loved it. A lot of people didn't like it for the reasons that we've explained. So I mean, it's honestly down to personal opinion.
I guess we're representing the internet. So if anyone has comments, I guess you can fight it out with lances and swords in the comment section.
If you want to see a full-on debate in this show, go watch the Mike episode where me and Chris had a nice debate on our scores for the Mike episode.
Yep, so that'll pretty much wrap it up.
I address the YouTube question, remember, that we got last week?
What was the
a YouTuber commented and said, how would you compare Better Call Saul as a series standalone from Better Call Saul? Or sorry, from Breaking Bad even.
I think it's done a good job of, considering the fact that this is a quote-unquote spin-off series, I think it's done a pretty good job of squashing the naysayers and establishing itself as its own entity. Because looking back on it, they've only tied in like 2 characters from Breaking Bad so far. So I mean, and they've we've had more development with Mike, but Tuco hasn't really had that much development. So like, I mean, they've done a good job of standing alone, I feel, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think the same. I think this show is its own thing. It's not like Breaking Bad. There's some characters thrown in there, obviously, to give you that little tie back. But it's its own thing because it's dealing more with the law and kind of like almost like ethics, like law and ethics of law kind of thing. And it's also in the world of Breaking Bad and the themes that go along with that, which is kind of that added excitement to the series, which is why I think it's great. It does stand on its own. I do think it kind of lives up to what people were hoping, Yeah,
I think anyone that hasn't watched Breaking Bad, I think they could probably jump into this.
Yeah.
Like, I know in the first 2 episodes we were like, oh my gosh, it's just this. Is Tuco showing up? There's going to be one of many characters we're going to... But thankfully, they kind of stomped that out, and they're like, alright, we're not going to bring any more Breaking Bad characters.
Well, Gus has already teased that he's going to be in the next season, so...
I wouldn't be surprised. I think it's very possible he's going to arrive, Whether or not any other major characters are going to show up, I don't know. But for season 1, at least, I think it definitely has done a good job of creating its own universe, of definitely expanding Saul's backstory. Interestingly enough, we didn't even mention this, but there was no future scene in this, which I was predicting in the last episode we were going to get a final tease to the future of Saul, but we didn't get that at all in this episode. So what little? So you don't even have to watch Breaking Bad to know that.
Yeah, they might. Yeah, Jack. Yeah, they might start season 2 with.
Yeah, that's something. And every season beginner is going to start with a future scene, which will be interesting. But I do think, that as a season by itself, I do think it stands up very well on its own, and it doesn't need Breaking Bad to to stand with. I think it can stand quite well on its own. Bob Odenkirk, great job. Jonathan Banks. We might see some Emmy nominations. You never know, but
yeah. Yeah, but great all around. Good job, obviously, by Gilligan and Peter Good and all the guys that are involved with it, and it's been good. So, and obviously we've enjoyed doing these reviews and stuff. We've been able to make it work despite. I honestly thought when I first messaged you about this idea, I was like, oh my god, it's so hard for us to get our schedules under wrap. I don't know, but somehow other than the Mike episode when Jack wasn't around, we were able almost every episode to do these, and I have the full playlist all added, and you'll get to see. It's on my channel. You get to see all 10 episodes if you guys want to run through that. So thanks for watching. Obviously, I don't know when season 2 starts. I know The Walking Dead starts back up in October. So I don't know if Saul's gonna start around the same time. I'm gonna guess maybe, but I'll have to.
Breaking Bad not like once a year, like around the same time every year. It might run on that.
I don't know. I'll have to. No idea. If anyone knows, obviously, let me know. But I'll Google it and try to figure out when it's going to be around. And it's also going to be interesting because this summer, the Fear the Walking Dead, the Walking Dead spin-off series is coming out. So it's going to be interesting for me to kind of compare and contrast, how that series does how they handle their spin-off. Breaking Bad handled Saul this way, as we've discussed. How does The Walking Dead do that? So that'll be interesting to take a look at. But anyway, thanks for watching, guys. Thanks for joining us for the season 1 vlogs. We'll see you later. As always, leave your comments and anything else you'd like about the episode and about our commentary
or the series itself.
Or the series itself, exactly. Yep. And we'll see you later.